Please be joined this time by the head coach, the new head coach at Lowndes, Coach Zach Grage. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Chris. I appreciate you having me.
Man, you come a long way since being up here with me in the mountains.
My wife and I were talking about that the other day, that I think we're 7 years removed from our first head coaching job up at Gilmer, and it's been an awesome run. But yeah, we hoped we were in some place like this someday. We didn't know that it'd be now, but we jumped at it when we had the chance.
Absolutely, man. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I'm jealous. You've done a great job, man. You've, you had a great run down in Thomasville, made the state championship. Talk a minute before we get into, I want to talk about Lowndes. I want to talk about your team, but before we get there real quick, kind of the process, your time period in Thomasville, how great it was, and then transitioning over. Talk a little bit about that before we get into the next year stuff.
Thomasville's an unbelievable town, first and foremost, unbelievable kids. You had what's been really, really neat going from Thomasville to Lowndes right now is the city dynamic at Thomasville with the county dynamic here at Lowndes. There's a lot of differences, and just that. I mean, heck, I was driving 3 minutes to work at Thomasville, and now I'm driving 15 minutes to work, and I'm close to the school. But just really, really neat to see that different dynamic. But Thomasville was really just right for the pick, and I think it was a great spot at the right time. They were coming off a 1-9 season, which was the worst in school history. So any change, any opportunity to do anything different was welcome with open arms. The tradition was there, the resources were there, and most importantly, the players were there. I mean, that's, good and well, like anybody else.
That's right.
Those players make a really good coach really fast. But you had the administrative support. It checked all the boxes. People were ready to try and go be successful. So that was cool. We had a little success that first year. Really had a lot of success that 17 season. That's when that crowd, the Charlie Thomases, he starts at Georgia Tech now. We had a lot of good players in that senior class that kind of led us. We were 12-0, lost to Emory Jones and Aaron Beasley at Heard County. Some people may have heard of them. Mm-hmm. And then 18, we just always were able to make a run. Like we'd start off, our non-region schedule was always ridiculous. You have the Cairo, Central, Bainbridge. This year it's Tift County, Scrimson, Valdosta over there. Brooks County. So I made sure that schedule was really nice and tough, and then took off. But I mean, we always, if we were happy to be 500 running, making through that run, just tell you the truth. If we can get through there, and we say, if we can go 4-2, 3-3, hit the region, you always had a good region with, Fitzgerald and Brooks most of the years. We're able to have decent success, against both of them. Coach Freeman, Coach Pruitt doing an unbelievable job. That was always good. And then as long as you took care of beating the guys you were supposed to beat, you had a chance to make a run in the playoffs. So yeah, it did culminate last year, making the state championship in year 6. Just, it all finally came together. Year 6 in the program, you had something that was just way different than what I think normal society is now. We had 22 seniors, and it was 22 guys. Our best players loved football. I know it's cliche. I hate hearing people talk about it, but they love the process. They did. They loved practice. They loved the weight room. They loved get playing. They loved Thomasville. It was just really, really neat to be a part of. And I think they've got that coming back this year. And that's one thing that, people kind of ask about, why'd you leave? And my wife and I, the schools, how important it is with your kids, Chris. Yeah. Schools there are phenomenal. The town is unbelievable. Very, very rich. Just the downtown. If anybody's never been to Thomasville, it's really, really cool. All the festivals they do and the downtown bricks. I mean, it's just a neat place to go. We didn't leave Thomasville. We could have very well seen ourselves be there for the next, I got 14 years left. Could have very well been there 14. But we came to Lowndes. And when the different opportunities came up over the past few years, especially, one of my mentors came to me and said, because we just turned down everything. We wouldn't even go talk to people. We're happy. We don't need to go anywhere. And one of my mentors came to me and said, Coach, you and Manny need to sit down and decide if there's a place you would go, who would you be willing to talk to? And I promise you, this is legit. We said we'd go to Lowndes if that ever came open. And dang, if it didn't, the timing was terrible. Middle of April, spring break. I mean, we're full go, all in, Thomasville, ready to rock and roll. And this thing came open, and got a phone call, and the rest is kind of history. And then we had to hit the ground running. But it's been really, really good. And a lot of the similar characteristics, great winning tradition, great resources, unbelievable kids, already had a great staff. This was the main difference. You're coming into a program now that had a lot of storied tradition, continues to have the tradition, coming off a 10-3 season, quarterfinal run, losing to Collins Hill, eventual state champion. You're coming off a great thing with success. So now implementing some of those changes, which you have some non-negotiables within the program, that's been where you think you might hit a hard wall or hit something where, hey, kids may say, Coach, we're not doing that. Or Coach, why would we do this when we did this and it was successful? That has not been the case whatsoever. Everybody's been very receptive. Coach has been awesome. We were able to bring in enough of, some of the guys I've worked with before, just kind of have that trust factor in your corner and people that know how things. So when I say something about a practice schedule, they can kind of say, oh yeah, this is where that goes, and have that guy in your corner. But the kids have been awesome, and Mandy and the boys are finally getting settled in. We just got actually moved in about 2 weeks ago. So it's all trying to take place, but there's still, some long night.
Listen, if anybody doubted my standing with the coaches in Georgia, this is how busy you are. You're moving. You got a job in nearly May, and you're cleaning the locker room and having to redo it as we speak, and it's got to be done in the next couple hours. So I feel very blessed that you've taken just a minute to talk to me, man. And I mean that. I do appreciate it. I know you're busy. Coach, let me ask you this, because when I thought of your time at Thomasville, and I followed you because I consider you a friend, and I like to see you do well, so I kept up with you. And I was always impressed at how the teams got better and you made a run in the playoffs. I think when you were an assistant coach, that was the mantra you guys had. And, and I saw you doing it at Thomasville. What's the key? Forget about what place you are. You've been a part of a lot of deep runs, and even from teams that were maybe 6-4 or 7-3, and then won a few playoff games. That's what I'm talking about. Not just like last year. What's the key to that? Because we get a lot of people nowadays kind of, for lack of a better word, they look at that record and it matters to them. If they're 7-3, they don't feel like they're as good as the 10-0 team or the 9-1 team that you got to beat to keep getting deep in the playoffs. What have you seen as consistently a key or a reason that certain teams are able to do that and others aren't?
I think it's what you focus on, what you talk about. Now, I used to tell the kids all the time there, we haven't quite had that talk here at Lowndes yet. I don't think we're ready for it quite yet, but there's nobody in summer workouts that's breaking it down on 5-5. Mm-hmm. Everybody at this point, everybody in June, I hope, is trying to play for an undefeated season. I kind of got laughed at when I was at Thomasville. I'd always do the Kiwanis talks and the Rotary talks, just like we've all done. And Coach, what's the expectation for the season? I say 15-0. That was my answer every time. I mean, why are you doing this game if you're not trying to win every single game? There's no game on the schedule that you should go, well, I think we may lose to them. Why are you doing it? We talk about that a lot here already. We don't compete, we win. I mean, we don't talk about compete here. Competing's for average people. We win. So I think it's a lot of it, what you just talk about and understand. At Thomasville, we did talk a lot about hosting playoff games because we thought it was important to our community. We thought that we owed it to them to have games in front of them. Mm-hmm. Because there's people in Thomasville that are going to choose to eat dinner on Monday or come to the game on Friday. I mean, it is what it is, and people are going to come to the game. And we were trying to take care of those people that made the family choice to go support the kids. So we did talk about that a bunch. We talked about that end goal. I think you got to play it with a catch-22 though, because if that's in 2018, I think was probably my worst job coaching. I think leading the group was really, really bad. So we had a really good group in 17, made the quarterfinal run. In 18, all we talked about was state championship. That's all we talked about. And we got knocked out in the second round, which was our shortest playoff run in my 6-year tenure there. And I look back on it, I was like, God, that was not very smart, because that's the only goal we had in mind. So I think it was trying to, one, identify the identity of that team. Even in those 6 years, it was 6 different teams. Some kids responded to this kind of practice schedule. Our practice schedule last year, that was the first time that we went shells every day. We didn't put pads on in our pants, not one time, outside of the girdle, inside the shorts, because the kids could handle that. We talked about, our goals last year. Everybody has those offense, defense, special team goal boards. I erased all that stuff. We still talked about it as a staff. We'd still talk about it with the kids every now and then, but our only goal on all 3 of those boards was win, period. That's it. So we come in on Sundays. Hey, did we accomplish our goal? Yes. Now, we did it because we had good third down conversions, good red zone conversions, and won the turnover battle, that type of deal. I think it was just something we talked about a lot, that if we felt like we had a chance to win a championship, then we were going to talk about it. But then we also had to talk about one thing I always went back to. Man, everybody wants to be the president. Everybody wants to be the head coach. Everybody wants to be the superintendent. Everybody wants to be that guy. You want to own a business. You don't work for anybody. Everybody wants to be that man. But there's only one. There's only one of those. So for some reason, that person's up there. Now, you can't also just walk into Google and say, hey, I want to go own this business. You've got to put your licks in and put your time in. So we always had the goals, beating Cairo and beating Central. But then you want to win the region. You want to, dominate your home field. You want to win the last one. And we always had 5 goals that we wrapped our heads around that we could measure. And hopefully you met them. Some days we didn't. A couple of years we didn't beat Central. A couple of years we didn't beat Cairo. But it's not the end of the season. So I think I learned a lot from that 2018 year. But I think to answer your question, Chris, just what you talk about, I think you speak it into existence as much as you possibly can. But you've also got to be realistic. I think there's sometimes if you're saying, hey, we're going to win the region, but if your goal legitimately, like especially down here in South Georgia, Region 1, if for sure you look at your kids and you could win the Super Bowl but be the 4 seed, and that is your best season you could possibly have, then you need to talk about that. Hey, we need to make the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, who knows? You peak at the right time, ball bounces weird ways. But that's kind of
like
where
some people's teams do a little better at that than others. And it just seems like you guys did. I thought Rush's teams did at Colquitt when you were there. I thought your teams have just peaked, as the season have gone on and gotten better as the season gone on. And I commend you for that, but I don't think anybody's trying not to do that. I just think some people have a little better knack for developing those players as the season goes on. And
I think all that kicker too, Chris, is the workloads. There's always been the misnomer that Coach Probst's staff and the people that have branched off of his staff that it's just work. Man, I think we do a really, really good job of taking care of our players, taking care of our coaches. When we're here, we work, but we try and find every niche and every nook and cranny that we prepare for an 18-week season. So when you're 5 games in, you're a third of the way. We talk about that a lot too. You're 2/3 of the way after 10 games. So if you get the kids thinking, hey, this is an 18-week, and we don't say grind. I don't allow people to say grind in any program I've been a part of. Grind to me is, man, I've got to do this. Man, we get to do this.
Yeah.
I hate grind. This is exciting. So I think it's just, again, the mindset. If 10 weeks is your goal, then prepare for 10 weeks. But if 15 weeks is your goal, 18 weeks with your open weeks and your scrimmage game, then you've got to start understanding that in June and in July and give people the time off, send them home, enjoy your time off, be a kid. I think we do a really good job of that as well.
Well, Coach, I'll tell you, you found the perfect place because you are now sitting in a place that expects to play 15 games every year. So
every year.
So you found the place that matches what you want to do, bud. Because I'm telling you, I would love that. I would love that. It never bothered me. It would never bother me that there was expectations, but there are expectations. It is different than when you coached at Gilman in that regard. There's expectations. So let's talk about your schedule. I don't claim to know anything about Florida football, but I know you're playing 4 Florida teams. I'm going to assume that all of them are pretty good because otherwise they probably wouldn't have played you. So tell me about these Florida teams.
All right. I'm gonna squash everything real fast. I'll talk quickly about schedule wise. Now, I'm not going to get into a bunch of the other teams because our mantra this year, Chris, and actually our schedule in the back reflects it. We've got 15 games and they all say Lowndes.
Hey, that's okay with me.
So now Florida schools, you are going to have, you got American Heritage right off the jump. You're going to be loaded. D1s all over the place, offers all over the place. It's going to be a part of an unbelievable Saturday. Colquitt plays before us at 5:00. We are the nightcap at 8:00. I don't know how we're handling parking or ticketing or any of that stuff. That's for somebody else to worry about, but I think it's going to be unbelievable. And then you got Dunbar. That's later in the season. Gadsden, got to be athletic all over the place. I think your standard Florida identity is going to be athletes all over the place, well coached, especially up in the North Florida area. It's just an extension of South Georgia, I think, and give us tests. I enjoy it. They're going to be home games. That's another thing we get to do here is host a lot of games. But I think then you head into what you got East Coweta. That's going to be our big trip. That we're going to use East Coweta hopefully as a preparation for a playoff state champion type travel. Get in the hotel and try and work that out as much as we possibly can. Grayson comes down to us. Holy cow. I mean, you know, Adam and the job he
Yeah.
does and the guys they get to work with, you know, that'll be a great, I guess, tune up, if you want to call it, for our region. We open up with about Asta, and you throw in, you know, Moultrie and Richmond Hill and Camden and
Yeah. Listen, nobody's gonna feel sorry for you, but this is a pretty tough schedule.
yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head though. You're not calling folks here, and it was the same. I talked to Coach Freeman about this at Brooks. We had a very similar problem at Thomasville. Is when you're those smaller schools that are good, it's very difficult to find an opponent because someone your size doesn't want to play. But then someone that's bigger than you may not want to play because they don't want to get beat by a smaller school. And now you're Lowndes, now you're 7A, you're sitting on top of, you know, whatever's thought about around the state. And now you're just trying to find anybody that will, you know, come to play at any time. So I think
really
everybody's got their,
just about getting better, keeping them healthy, because every game is going to be a battle, but you're going to have a lot of tough football games. And I think that Lowndes mentality, you know, you just saying they all say Lowndes on the schedule. I like that. You know, I mean, look, they're all going to be good. Assume that the other team's really good every week. You know, they got a bunch of good players. You guys getting better will be the difference, you know, in achieving your goals or not. I mean, that's
Correct.
it really is that simple. I'd have to get my buddy Todd Holcomb on this for the newsletter, but I'm pretty sure it's had to have been a long time, if ever, that a team played 4 teams from Florida. Because first off, you had to have a small region like y'all have, and you had to play 4 teams from a different state, all the same state. That has to be, I mean, that might be a first.
Some kind of record. It may be beaten at some point because those are the guys that we can find to play us right now.
Yeah, you may get 5 next cycle.
Right.
Hey, talk to me real quick about so far, you know, you've had spring practice, you're doing some stuff in the summer. What's got to improve the most? I mean, you don't have to tell me all the details of who's playing what. I don't need all that, but just what have you seen as saying, okay, this is what we're really good at. This is what's got to improve to get where we want to be. You know, where are you?
A lot of it's just, I've been most excited about learning how we do things. You know, we talked about that coming out of spring practice, that scheme was extremely overrated. If we can learn how we take the field, how we practice, how we address the field house, a lot of that was also me stepping back and watching, you know, what, again, you've dealt with this multiple, what is phone usage like? You know, are they all about it? We had to end up taking them up. How do we approach a game day? What's our pregame meal like? What's it like transitioning from the field house here to there? So really me learning Lowndes and Lowndes learning the coaching staff. You know, first priority, getting a great staff in, which I think we checked that box for sure and gone above and beyond. You know, getting our schedules in, getting the kids, hey, when you approach the field house, your step 1, you're going to go to the information board, getting an information board up. Here's where you check depth charts. Here's where you check what we're doing today. You shouldn't have to ask me what we're wearing because it's right there on the board. Here's where we meet. Really revamping, and I'll tell you now, Chris, our field house is going to be up for about another 8 months. So we've got an indoor facility that will be done in February, and it's right when you drive in the front entrance to Lowndes High, full 120-yard, unbelievable indoor. The day that they finish that, they're going to come down and knock down the field house in the weight room, which is on this north end of the football field. So we have done a lot of improvements and revamping, fresh paint, new pictures, all kinds of things in this field house, even knowing we're only going to be here for the rest of the season, basically. So using those resources now, all these things are also movable, so they'll go to the new place. But just changing things up, putting that stamp on it. I think our kids have done an unbelievable job of learning how to practice. It was a definite culture shock. There's no doubt. I think before it was very NFL-esque, just kind of float around and we're going to get our reps in and helmets off. So kind of putting that South Georgia physicality and pride back into it. You know, nobody's standing around ever. We practice short, but we practice hard. We coach them hard. We lift. We've changed up the weight room and really trying to prioritize coming in April 13th. Football had to be at the forefront of what we were doing because we had to get prepared for spring practice and a game. Once we got that done, had a good showing in our spring game. Had the week off with dead week. Coming back in, our focus this summer has really been the weight room and getting that meshed in. We cleared out. Basically, I got here where there were 23 racks with a bunch of machines down the middle of the weight room that I didn't know what we used them for. So matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, we cleared all that out, cleared out 5 racks. Now we have 18 kind of in a horseshoe style. We incorporate movement into every workout that we do. So getting that implemented. And then, of course, that took about 3 days of shock to get over because it's different. It's tough. But the kids have really been good on that. And then scheme wise, competition wise, when you replace a Ja'Cory Brown, it's, 4-year starter now at Miami. When you replace a Chase Belcher, 3.5-year starter now going to Northern Arizona, they're up here every day about working out. And after we get done, trying to we got Phil Jones called me today, Coach, what's the quarterback competition look like? I said, still 3-man. I mean, we're 3 great players that are competing at the quarterback position, trying to find out, where some kids fit. We got 8 O linemen that we really like. We got 6 D linemen we really like. And right now, getting the guys to understand all 8 of those O linemen are going to play, especially South Georgia early in the year. All these receivers, we are very talented at receiver, but very young. And I think overall, our biggest nucleus of talent is in the 10th grade, just as a group. We have, the juniors and seniors that have had experience and are going to play and have some really good players in those classes as well. But getting those young guys to come up, get experience, maybe take a couple licks, any Friday night's big, but 1-7-8 South Georgia is even a little bit bigger. But just learning how to win, learning different verbiage that we use, learning how we do things, what the expectations are. That's been the biggest positive, I think, for us this summer. And again, we didn't mention a lick about scheme and, throwing the ball or running the ball or doing this. And I'm still trying to look back and see what kind of identity these guys are bringing to the table this year.
I think you're wise to do that. Every team's a little different. And, I took over at 2 places that were not good. They were not good. It was like, whatever you want to do, coach, it's fine.
Right.
That's not the situation you're walking into. So, I think it's wise to kind of evaluate, every place is different. I think if you don't understand that you think you have a magic way of doing things to taking over a job or a magic way to run your offense or defense, you're wrong. You just don't. I mean, you can have a system that you like and you want to base out of and whatever and go from there, but every place is a little different. Coach, I'll get you out on this because I know you really are busy. Brag on your assistant coach a little bit. Tell me a little bit about kind of who stayed, who's new, anything we can do to get some publicity out for those guys. I know some of them are having to work hard for you too. You're going to get all the credit or blame for this, but it's going to be all you guys that do the work. So brag on these guys a minute.
I will, Chris. And I had a wise guy tell me, and I've seen it as much as we're able. You become the CEO. I love coaching. I got to throw routes on air today, man. That's the first time I've been able to pick up a football and go do one of our quarterbacks is out of the baseball tournament. So I got to jump in and throw routes. I felt like I was actually coaching again instead of managing all the different things going on.
Arm? Is your arm okay?
Yes. It'll hurt tomorrow, but right now I feel good. Hey, sign me up. But no, I was asking, are we filming this? I still got to get picked out. I think got a couple years left. But no, it's our guys do an unbelievable job, and that's what if you can go and hire the best assistant coaches and let them do their job, then everything else is good. And I think that's the number one. Players and coaches are going to be your number one tellers of success, no doubt. We had a really, really good staff that was already in place, and we didn't make a whole lot of changes. So Ashley Anders was our defense coordinator. He actually was learning the kids like I was. He got hired in February by Coach DeBose. He was the first one I met with and said, Coach, just make sure you're all in. I'm all in. I've known Ashley for a long time, just being in South Georgia. I think that was a huge hire, so we kept him as defense coordinator. Our D-line guys, and a guy named Vincent Davis, he came over from Pelham, was another guy that was hired and learning guys. He was actually hired about 2 weeks before I got the job here. Does a great job with the D-line. John Arnold, these are some of the guys that are Lowndes dudes. John Arnold has been here most of his career, I'd say 20 years plus. Actually just retired as a math teacher, but is still going to stay on and coach football with us and do some things up with the school. He coaches our rover, kind of our stand-up end. Inside backers, this guy I brought with me from Thomasville, Dontavis Sapp. He's a Valdosta guy, played at Valdosta, played at Tennessee, played in the league, has a lot of street cred with these kids, a lot of community connections. So that helps us a ton. He's got our backers. Coach Joseph Robinson, 9th grade guy here for 10 years. We moved him up immediately. I think he's phenomenal. He coaches our nickels. And then we've got Jermel Demps, played here as well, been here a long time. He coaches our safeties. And then Terry Quinn is another. I think his title is associate head coach. And so, he's got every title known to man because he's been here so long. Another guy with Florida ties, South Georgia Lowndes ties, just a phenomenal. Those 4 have been crucial for me as far as learning Lowndes traditions and Lowndes, how were things done here before? What did you agree with before? What did we need to change up? So that defensive staff I think is phenomenal with just the different mix, new guys that have been here, guys that know the kids. Offensively, Buck Hansen, he's in his first year with us, but he was already hired here in January. So he was, I inherited him, but he was also that one was tough because this all happened really, really quick. When Coach DuBose left, I knew that Buck was getting phone calls to go to other places.
Mm-hmm.
When my family and we decided we were offered the job on a Friday, visited on a Saturday, made the decision on a Sunday, but weren't getting announced until Tuesday. So we tried to keep it down. You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, I was not allowed to talk to any of the coaches. They didn't want them to know. The superintendent didn't want them to know. So I had to do some backwoods channeling to make sure that Buck Hansen knew he had a job and then quit taking these other phone calls because I wanted him as O-line coach. So we were able to lock that one down. Daniel Brinson also coached ROL. That's a cool story. He played center for us at Colquitt when I was at Colquitt. So now he's at Lowndes. He's been here a couple of years. So we actually moved him up to varsity this year. So he's our other O-line coach. Right now, Chris Wade is our special teams coordinator. He came from Tifton with Ashley Anders and is also coaching our tight ends right now. And then we got 2 receiver coaches. One is a holdover, Kevin Peisch. I've actually known Coach Peisch from his days at Lee County when Dean used to do all these little clinics. I met Coach Peisch, actually stayed at his house a couple times, knew him and his wife. And it's just amazing. You always talk about, hey, you never know, we may work together. Let's stay in touch. Peisch and I have known each other for 10 years. This is our first opportunity to work together. And they got a young guy named Micah Banks. Just got him over from Lamar County. Again, connections. I knew Jamal Perry used to be the OC at Archer. Called him to see if he wanted a job. He's moving into administration. He said, but coach, I'll tell you, if I ever become a head coach, I'm going to hire this guy. He sends me his number. Bam, I call him. He comes over. We love him. And then the one I left, last but not least, Sean Sutton has been with me, was actually my boss at Colquitt County.
Mm-hmm.
We've stayed in touch, again, another 10-year type of relationship. He was actually going to come with me to Thomasville. And then I called him one day and I said, hey, pump the brakes a little bit. We're either going to go to Thomasville or Lowndes. And so he was all in, got his wife over here. Fantastic. So he's running our offense. And I need to make sure I mention, we've got a guy named Al Chandler that's been here. He runs our equipment room, does a phenomenal job. That was one of those things you got to learn. Like, we've got a guy that is in the equipment room all day, every day. And we're helping him, and we're helping him with wash and everything. But that's what he loves. And he helps him with the clock at practice. I mean, he's just been here and been that guy. And then Philip Pipolo has been the athletic trainer here for 26 years. And good and well, stepping into, those are things that people don't look at.
Yep.
How does the medical staff work? How do trainers work? If a kid gets hurt, who's our orthopedic? Who's our family doctor? What's the umbrella look like for people to get treated? So, having him in place and another guy that knows the ins and outs has been really, really, really good. And then finally, Josh Akers coaches our running backs. That's another Lowndes guy. He's another one like Terry Quinn on the defensive side.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, when I came in and Sean wasn't here yet, he was the one that helped me with everything, introduced me to administration, took me through where the school was, how we do things, has been here for a long time, does a great job with our running backs, and then all the organizational Google Drive. I think he's certified in every different Google level you can be in. Just really, really, really good folks.
Coach, you got some good ones, man. You even got Coach Sutton. I think he's sitting there waiting on you to clean up that locker room. So I'm gonna have to let you go.
Go home. So I keep trying to get rid of him, telling him to get out of here, but go get these lockers.
Hey,
right.
man, I really do appreciate you taking a minute to talk to me. I'm really happy for you, really excited for you, excited to follow what you do down there. And, I'm here if I can ever help you. I don't know what I can do to help you, but if I can, I'm here, man.
Always appreciate you, Chris.
Take care, man. See you.
Yes, sir.